Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director with Clackamas County. And today we have with us some of our great folks from our team. My far left, we have Jeff Jorgensen, who is our Facilities Management Director. And we have Krista Wolf, or Bosserman Wolf, is our Deputy Director. And then Sandra Montoya, our Budget Manager, who's been with us through these days. So I'm going to start off with our just overview of our finance and facilities presentation. For this presentation, I'll just remind you that they are combined. We are one department, finance and facilities. So when you see our numbers, you'll see that they are together. I want to share that finance strives for accuracy, timeliness, and transparent information. And I'm just really excited that the work that the team has done over the last year in our finance department is to prepare us for a new era at Clackamas County to have timely, accurate, and transparent financials. So let's go to our first slide. So as I mentioned, we are making huge strides in our technology, and you've heard that throughout many of the presentations over the last couple of days, adding software, looking for efficiencies. Well, we are doing the same thing here at the county. The county used to have it still does until June 30, 8 different chart of accounts. And so part of that transparency is going to be available with one chart of accounts. We've been talking about this for a year and a half, and we're really excited for the completion of this. We hired a consulting firm, ERPA, and they have been working remotely. So we've saved a lot of money on hotels and rental cars and transportation. Using Zoom for meetings has been just phenomenal. And so facilities also is doing upgrades in their software. We have a new Z-Link software that will be going live July 1st, and that is for the work order system. So a lot of good technology improvements within these departments. So we are looking forward to those monthly financials that we'll hopefully soon be presenting quarterly reports to the commissioners and then also to the budget committee. Right now we have monthly financials that are produced 30 days following the end of the month, because we're still working on the various tasks and just a lot of work to get all the information in timely and to close the month. We hope to bring that up to 15 days at minimum after the close of a month. Those financials are available to all of the departments. They get a notification from our budget team, and they can go in and review those transactions. So we are watching closely how we're spending our dollars and how the revenue is coming in. And one of the other great things that we're doing in finance is reviewing and revamping all of our financial policies. I mentioned earlier that we have our contingency and reserve policy will be coming to the commissioner shortly. We're also wrapping up a debt policy and a capital asset policy. So these are great improvements and guides for the county-wide employees to use for our processes. And then one of the fun things that we've heard over and over is going paperless or fileless, as the DA's office referred to it as. But we actually started this process pre-COVID in our AP department, and we've moved it throughout all of finance, with the exception of payroll. Payroll still has a lot of paper processes. If we have a final check, someone's retiring, we still are in the habit of printing out a paper check for them. But other than that, even our contracts, our procurement department has gone all paperless. So that's very exciting. And let's see here. Oh, and then another accomplishment, big kudos to our facilities management team for all the great work they did through the 3 events that we've had. They continue to work diligently with our warehouse for the COVID event. Tirelessly, 36 hours. I know numerous staff worked through the ice storm and the firestorm. They were out there making sure that our property was protected. So thank you, facilities team. Next slide, please. I'm going to ask Krista to take this one.
So in front of you, we have a variety of our performance results and measures for FY20 and 21. So I'm just going to draw your attention to a couple of these. Major one, as Elizabeth pointed out, is the chart of accounts, the very first one here. So by July 1st, the chart of accounts will be updated and implemented so the departments can align their budget and accounting with their strategic plans. So that one's the most significant, as we have worked really hard in both our budget team, working with the new software, and then also working to make the new OpenGov software connect to the PeopleSoft system, which is our current accounting system. So we're really looking forward to this, and it's on target, and it should be done July 1st. So another point I'd like to make is the financial executive support, financial system support, the very second one there. That one, although this one says 0%, I'd like to highlight a different measure where we wanted to measure how do trainees feel after they've attended a training. So we're basically doing trainings on our PeopleSoft system to make sure that staff have the tools and the knowledge to do the tasks that they need to do within the PeopleSoft system. And so we made a goal of 85% of those trainees would report that they do have that knowledge. And so far we have exceeded that, and that's sitting at 100% currently. So a couple of other great areas where we're doing some awesome work here is the budget, of course, and OpenGov. We have, as you can see, we are working in the new system. It's very, very exciting. We have a couple of areas still to develop, which is exciting as well. And so that is why that one is sitting at 80% for projected performance, because we will be looking at a couple of additional modules, such as capital budgeting and stories, which will allow us potentially to create more of an online budget book. So we're really excited to look forward to those potential developments. Another exciting area, as Elizabeth mentioned, accounts payable. So if we look down a little bit, we currently have been working really hard to get all of our vendors on ACH payments, because that's more of a paperless process, and they get paid much, much faster, 2 days, rather than having to wait for a check run. So again, we're sitting at 43% for performance, and this is a percentage measurement, so what might be more significant is the check runs that I just authorized for this week, which out of checks, we ran check runs for a total of $1 million, but of ACHs, we paid $2 million. So that shows you that we're doing much more ACH volume than we are doing paper checks now. And that's great for our vendors because, again, they get paid faster. And so those are just a few of the measures that we wanted to highlight. And also a note to our facilities team in the construction area. Our construction supervisor has done a great job getting surveys from customers here at the county internally on those projects, and their projected performance is at 100% of those responses, basically rating facilities staff, their interactions with them as good or very good. So we're really excited to see those developments. With that, we can move forward to the next slide.
So here we have our program profiles. We have 5 lines of business, and this includes our, the finance teams as well as the management teams. 13 programs, and then within those you see total, percentage of county general funds, and those are general funds to support these programs, but primarily we have allocated costs that go out to all the departments. They're based on FTE counts or dollars in their budgets, square footage for some facilities allocations, and so there's a variety of ways. And we will be looking at our whole allocation process throughout the county in this coming year to see if we can fine-tune that. We have a lot of variables, and do we need them all? For example, procurement, we count contracts, and we use last year's data for future years' allocations. Okay, can we move on from that? Next slide, please. So here we have our graphs, our 2 pie charts. As you can see, as I just explained, a lot over 15 million in charges and fees. The revenue you see from bonds and other debts, I thought this might be interesting. We do auction our used cars that we're moving on, and in finance, actually it's our procurement team that manages that process. We do get a slight admin fee for that. Let's see. Also, we have revenue from it's a rebate from our purchasing cards. We have county credit cards that we pay off 100% every month. And we do get about 145,000 back in rebate expected this coming budget year. So that's approximately 1 FTE that funds. Let's see, and our beginning balance includes, this is also facilities, so this includes the facilities of $2 million, and beginning balance that's carried over for the accounts receivable module that we've mentioned. That's going to be implemented beginning in July, hopefully with implementation triggering in October?
I think we're looking more towards January. is our
January,
current
okay, we're
timeline.
starting in October with full implementation in January. And so we have some carryover dollars from our consulting work that we're doing in the ERP system now. Let's see. And our expenditures, you can see, we're very heavy in personnel. We're a service organization, our department, and our material and services, primarily that's in facilities, so they get to own that. And then our capital outlay, you see there, that is for the next year's payment for our Z-Link, which is our facilities work order software. And then our contingency, we have a 1.7, that is in facilities for continued ice storm work that we don't know yet that's going to cost. That's going to be a continued expense that we will be looking for FEMA reimbursement as long as we can. And then also some just realignment within the facilities department that we're looking at. Next slide, please. So here you have just a breakdown of what we just looked at. The general fund support, you see it's increased 31. Last year we did reductions, and then as we described earlier, we also did a sweep of all contingency. So finance had over 360,000 in contingency, and because we reside within the general fund, it was pulled back through the general fund support. So we were made up, that was brought back whole at 2.1, and then with our personnel increase on top of that. And then you'll see the $1 million transfer that we had last year. That was from facilities, from excess allocations that we brought back to the general fund. Okay, next slide. And also I'll just point out the FTEs remain the same at 97. Thank you. Next slide, please. So here's another look at that, and you can see that we are housed in two different funds. We're in the general fund with our finance department, and then facilities management is in their own fund of 744. And we have a total reduction in both of our departments' overall budget. Next slide. We have two significant policies or financial issues we thought we would bring to your attention, and we were doing this over a month ago, and so one of them was with the returning to work to the county buildings with facilities, you know, the angst of coming back to work. Now that we know with more vaccines and the masks, we're eased up on that anxiety, but really it's like, what are those additional costs? At this time, we have approximately almost 100% spaces throughout our county are adequate for return to work.
It's actually 96%, but so only 4% of our space is countywide. We've looked at all our buildings. So it's about 30 cubicles that just aren't compliant. So the rest of the county, 96%, is occupiable to meet all the social distancing and the standards. Our buildings have got great HVAC systems with MERV 13 filters, so we're ready to accept the return of employees.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Jeff. And then our other one is something that we're looking at that we'll talk about in the facilities budget is really establishing that reserve for long-term. You heard TS talk about how they set aside each month, and we are actively working to be proactive to also have those capital reserve programs in place countywide. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a question? You got it. Yep, you're up.
Elizabeth, on page 8, your opportunity for established funded capital reserve program, you know I've been talking about that a lot. about setting aside reserves, or no, I'm not sure if I'm using the correct term. Setting aside monies for maintenance, and I think we might be underfunded for our maintenance going forward. And that's a priority, I feel, for me. And so, explain to me, it says, events and needs funding are then drawing upon operational dollars for capital cost rather than set aside funds. So are you saying that we need set aside funds for our ongoing building maintenance?
So there's two parts to that. So we're going to look at our facilities maintenance program to make sure that we are funding that appropriately to address all the maintenance. We do want to set aside reserves for replacement. So just, I think last week, you guys, the commissioners approved of the replacement of the Brooks Building AC units, and, a quite large ticket. And so we want to make sure that we are recognizing that these replacements are coming up, and how are we setting aside, so we don't have to take out of today's or this budget's operational dollars to spend that, but that we set it aside incrementally through the years until we need to replace them.
Well, that's good, because although these buildings seem to be, the building we're in seems to be rather new, it's about how old now, 13? I don't remember, I'm just kind of going off memory, but you understand what I'm saying. So we've already replaced the refrigerator in the administration staff's lunchroom, because it's time to replace the refrigerator. I mean, they don't last as long as they used to. You can't get 20 years out of a refrigerator, for instance, like you used to when we were growing up. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yes, and so we're going to have the same issues moving forward. The longer, we occupy these buildings, the more things that need to be replaced, possibly carpet, possibly chairs. I don't know, I'm just talking about that. So I would really like to be able to set aside, because that's our responsibility. To have good functioning work, especially as we're moving ahead for the courthouse. We have time to do that, and I do think that we need to take care of what we own at an acceptable, and Jeff knows what I'm talking about. I don't even know what the term for the maintenance is. Rate, before we embark on buying a new $200 million building. I've always said that.
Deferred maintenance, maybe?
Maybe that's it.
That's what we used to say.
Deferred maintenance is one of the terms, life cycle. Like
Life
you said,
cycle deferred maintenance.
Right. Equipment becomes obsolete. Refrigerant units, like the ones from Brooks, they wear out after about 20 years. The ones on Brooks are 22 years old. So we've been maintaining them a little bit longer than normal. But this building is 17 years old, and we try to maintain it. It's built as a 50-year building, but we want to get 75 years out of it, at least. So we do have to maintain our buildings. You're correct.
Really? We're 17 years old already?
Yeah, I was the assistant
Well,
project
pretty soon
manager
we're
for
going to
this.
graduate from high school.
It was built when I
Yeah.
was first here, and I've been
Was
here
it?
for most of it.
Wow. Yeah, so that's even worse.
And that's part of our plan within,
Celie, did you have other
Oh,
questions also? You have a card up?
Would you call me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just tagging on to what Chair Smith said, obviously I've been interested in facilities since I started on here, and I do have a somewhat professional background in it. So we talked a few years ago about the new software package you were implementing, I think I don't think I asked last year, but the year before you were still implementing. So can you just tell me where that is and how the results of implementing that have informed your list of capital projects?
So with Z-Link, what Elizabeth was talking about is it's our maintenance asset management program.
Asset management, right?
Right. So as of July 1st, the first module will be fully operational to go ahead and start issuing out work orders. So the employees from the county can go ahead and start requesting work orders through that system. We are currently working on building a full maintenance program, the PM, so that we have
Right.
all the HVAC units, the clean and seals for the buildings, the painting. So as time goes on, we've got everything migrated into those. And we're not the only maintenance group in the county either.
Right,
So
right.
the jail and these other groups, we're pulling them in to make sure that they can actually use that same system And part of that system is the asset management to go ahead and get every county property that we own in the county
Good.
in that system. We've got a lot of them, but we're working with the departments to try to pull in every property the county has.
Good. I think that's critically important going forward. And it's good to hear it's coming on board. I have a question, Elizabeth, on page 6. Shows a contingency, and I'm just going to take a wild guess that is a facilities fund contingency, and not your
Correct.
general fund.
Correct, there's,
operation.
right, that's
Okay.
100%.
All right, and the other question I have for Jeff is, have you looked at doing, and I'm not talking immediately, I know your workload is full. I have a way of triggering Elizabeth talking about her workload. At a 20-year facilities plan, I mean, we know there's some huge projects coming up. One's the courthouse, the jail. And those, I mean, when I started on the committee, they weren't in the 5-year CIP, but they certainly would have been in a longer-term capital facilities plan. And it's my understanding that the only 20-year planning cycle for capital is done in DTD right now.
No, we're actually, what Elizabeth was talking about with our capital improvements project, that we're trying to, the policy.
Yeah.
That's part of it, to go
Okay,
ahead
good.
and establish a full program for the county, not just, again, facilities department or anything.
Right.
It's for the county in general. Gary's been talking about that we have to be, looking wide for the county for every kind of aspect
Okay,
on
and that
those.
will go out for the 20-year period?
Should go for at least 20 or farther.
Okay, great.
And,
I was misinformed,
Right.
so.
For even the piece of equipment that we're putting in our program, it's going to have the average life expectancy from the industry for every
Okay.
item we have.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because you've got some major ticket stuff and you need to start thinking about either how you're gonna finance it or, I mean, how you're gonna work into it, because they're difficult
Yeah.
decisions.
That is to come.
Good, sounds good, thank you.
Ms. Caldwell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question about policy going forward in terms of people being able to continue working remotely, and whether that's going to have any impact on space needs.
I'm going to let Gary answer that.
Maybe, yes. We're looking right now at the space needs. If we have a permanent telework policy, we do not. We have a temporary telework policy. Staff are working diligently on what a permanent policy could look like, and I have committed that by September, we'll have further guidance to staff on what that looks like. But yes, we're looking at spacing immediately to make sure we have enough space distancing requirements to meet COVID protocols. And some departments are so tightly packed with cubicles, we do not currently meet spacing needs, so we're kind of spreading out to those departments that do have the space needs. But ongoing, if, big if, we retain permanent telework, then yes, we'll have to refigure our spacing needs at the county. So all that's in progress. I don't have a result today.
I mean, it seems like you could even do a hybrid program like the schools do, where people come into the office so many days a week, and
Yeah.
just lots of variables there, opportunity.
And Christina?
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, thank you. I had a question, only because it came up during the courthouse discussion with regards to annual maintenance of our buildings. And I know you mentioned the HVAC for Sunnybrook, but more specifically, we, the two most recent buildings we built are obviously PSB and DSB. So I'm just trying to get a rough estimate to build on the conversation of annual maintenance for either of these two buildings, PSB or DSB, what that annual maintenance has been, what our experience has been. Can you just roughly estimate what that is or has been?
Commissioner, I'm going to have to probably get back to you for a number. We have a maintenance contract with Johnson Controls that we work with for the air conditioning unit, our chillers, and that the chilling units for the utilidor that provide cooling to these buildings. But the majority of the maintenance is done from our staff doing maintenance in these buildings. few contracts out there. We do clean and seals on the exterior of the buildings every 5 years. We've replaced the roof on this building a couple of years ago. I can get back with an exact number to you to tell you what that is, but I don't have that on the top of my head right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking, I mean, it hasn't, it can't average more than really, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please correct me, by all means, correct me. It can't be really more than a couple $1 million a year for the two combined. Is that about, on an average? Does that sound reasonable or even high?
No, that's correct. It's in that area.
Okay. Yeah, because in the courthouse estimates, they were averaging just for the maintenance, the planned maintenance, regardless which model they looked at, $3 to $6 million a year, which I thought was very high. And, you know, higher than our experience here for the two buildings, even combined. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sabas. Seeing no others,